All right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. Now, remember, I don't know what episode it is. I just continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. Now, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so you continue to have this thing grow, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. And I've got another special guest with me here today. I've got Coach Erica. She is an assistant sports performance coach for softball, women's lacrosse, field hockey, and cross country at Longwood University, which is in Farmville, Virginia. Now, if you haven't heard about it, neither have I until today. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So, Coach, when you first got into this whole coaching gig, when did you realize that it was more than just a job and it was kind of like your calling?
I think so. I was an athlete all my life, and I think it really kind of hit me when I started my college career. I started A, and so I played volleyball there. And I would say that first year, like when you come in as an athlete, like you don't really understand like how hard it's going to be, especially like everyone's experience is so different. So actually coming into college, I was like, oh, I want to be like a physical therapist or like just something down that route. Like I honestly didn't really have any idea. But then once I started playing, I started like actually lifting weights and like actually having these like training sessions with my strength coach there at the time, who's Ray Ellsworth. And I was like, whoa, like this is like really intense, but this is like really cool. Like I really enjoyed it. Just like kind of like put the sport aside, put like life outside, and like you just go in and like crush some weights and like kind of die a little bit. But I think that's when I was like, I kind of fell in love with like doing it. And then I was like, shoot, I kind of want to like make this a career since that's obviously a thing. So once I left A&M, transferred to Liberty, that's when I like actually started my education to be more geared towards like strength conditioning, because Liberty, they had like a full program for it. They had a master's for it. So I immediately, like as soon as I got there, I was like, I want to learn everything I can, because I mean, I still know nothing, I feel like, but especially at that time, like I was just trying to like take in as much as I could. And so when I was at Liberty, I was really just like kind of latching on to like all the strength coaches, like while I was still playing my sport. So it's like if I was in a training session, like I had two different coaches there, Coach Carol Wise, and then Danny Evans was my last strength coach, both amazing. But I would just like ask them, like, why are we doing this? Or like, what does this do? Like, what does your program look like? Like, I just learned so much from just doing it, because my eyes were more open, that I was like, okay, I actually want to like do this and train people whenever this like part of my life is over. And so I'd say that is when the transition kind of happened of like, I want to make this a career. I don't want to just like finish being an athlete and then like kind of get out of the space. Like I want to stay in it, but like not as a sport coach. That was where I was like, I don't want to be the sport coach. I want to be like someone who can like make a huge impact, a positive impact, but like not have a say about like playing time and like all the other stuff that goes into it. So that's kind of like where it started and like how it got going.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about being a former athlete and making that transition. What was it like, though, to let go of being an athlete and now you're coaching athletes that you were also playing with, and then you're now it's no longer considered being an athlete, right? I think that's probably one of the hardest parts for a lot of us athletes is like letting go of saying like, hey, we're no longer an athlete. Now we're just like a full-time coach. And you also talk about not wanting to go into the coaching side of things of like the X's and O's, right? Which I think that's a lot of things that a lot of us other former athletes go through too of like, hey, well, we could coach our sport, right? Like we know that. That's pretty simple. But what about the performance side of things? And we don't really love the politics, most of us that are in the weight room and doing the performance side of things. Like we're not a political type of people. We're like, hey, like this is going to get you faster. This is going to get you stronger. Like the proof is in the pudding. Like we're not dealing with like, hey, if you don't run a slant route and this during this coverage and all this stuff, like, you know what I mean? So what was it like for that whole transition?
I mean, I'm still in the transition. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like it's still been like hard, and I'm like, people are like, oh, like you were an athlete. I'm like, no, I'm an athlete. I'm still an athlete. I still play sports. I still train like I'm, trying to be a pro athlete, but like, so it's been hard. And it was especially like that first semester when I was done and I was still with my old team in the weight room, even though it was just kind of like helping them out. I was like, oh, this is weird. So I think for me, kind of like leaving Liberty was good to kind of like get that distance of like I was there as an athlete and I kind of need space to like be somewhere else so I can like figure out who I am as a coach because it is different. But to answer your question, like in my eyes, like I'm not letting go of like being an athlete. Like that's just not, that's literally like part of who I am. And I'm like, so a little bit in denial, you could say.
Just a little bit, not a lot.
Nope, not a lot, but
So do you think
working.
you could get out there and play with your athletes like right now? Like if you were to go out there and play like a volleyball game with them, would you be able to compete with them?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm literally, my last game was like November of,
Oh, you're young in
yeah,
the game. Yeah,
I'm
you're
fresh.
fresh out. Yeah,
I
you
am.
ain't got no injuries to worry about or nothing catching up to
Well,
you.
honestly, I could probably pull something because I haven't like played, but like I definitely would at some.
But the good thing is that you're on the performance side of things, right? So now you get to it's a fun part about figuring out a way to come back. But when you got into this, and as you are now, kind of just rolling full time into it, what was kind of your biggest misconception that you had about coaching?
I feel like at first I kind of thought like, okay, like I've been an athlete, like I've been a good athlete, I've competed at like high levels, like coaching, that's like easy, I can do that. It wasn't really, I didn't really understand, especially like strength conditioning. Now it has like so many sides to it. So I think when I like was fully interning, I kind of saw like the stuff that my strength coaches and those who I was working under, like the things that they had to do, how they had to handle different situations, like people that they had to make contact with every day, the planning that they had to do, along with like them actually like training their athletes. So I think I just didn't understand the amount of like effort and time and like learning it takes to like excel in this field. So I think that was a misconception I had of like it is simple, but it's not. And honestly, I kind of like that. I kind of like that there's like a lot to do because I'm like, I have to be doing stuff. So I would say that was like the biggest thing. I just didn't know like there were so many layers to it.
Right. You talk about the layers, right? Because I think a lot of people out there don't really understand how many layers are in strength conditioning and sports performance, what and the athletic training, like everything that goes along being involved in not only just the college sector, the pro sector, the private sector of like what it is to kind of get a team to function and run smoothly in all the pieces and parts. Because in your bio, you say, assistant sports performance coach. A lot of people aren't going to understand like what does that entail and what does that mean to be an assistant sports performance coach? Does that mean you do strength and conditioning? Does that mean you do speed work? Does that mean you do nutrition? Are you doing rehab? Like what all are you doing on the sports performance side?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think before, like when it was just strength conditioning and people just thought like lift heavy weights, they think of like the football teams and like the videos you see, which I think are awesome. But I think now it's kind of like, especially like here at Longwood, like we don't have like nutritionists and dietitians. So it's like certain things like that, or even like obviously we have athletic trainers, but like you have to like collaborate and like do stuff with them that you are also in a way an athletic trainer like with them. And so I would say it's like taking that into like account and just that like the we're not, I guess my biggest thing is like I want to make my athletes better athletes. I want to make them better at their sport. I want to make them more resilient. And I think it's taking it out of like, oh, we just let's just like how much can we squat? Like it's more than that. It's like what's their sport, what's their position, what's their needs, how do they move? How can I make them move better? Like things like that of just like dissecting more of like their performance. Like that's why I'm a sports performance coach because I should make their performance better on the field and not like hinder it. Obviously, like there's other factors, but um
How hard is it though to kind of get, the coaches to buy in too, right? Because I think that's another hard part that we always talk about is strength and conditioning coaches, sports performance coaches, is getting our coaches, our actual head coaches, right? The people that are running the teams to understand the importance of what we do and also how much time we spend with the kids and getting them to buy into what we're doing in the weight room that will translate over and on the field, what it will translate over for their sport. So how hard is it to get kind of coaches to say the same thing, sing the same song, you know?
I feel like I'm very lucky that like I've had great mentors who have kind of helped me in that process of like this is how you deal with sport coaches. This is how you should handle different things. Like you can't any like conversation if you're at a new job or with a new coach, like it can't be addressed of like, okay, I know this, I'm gonna do this. It like you have to like hear them out first. You have to like make sure that like they know that you're doing things that they want, because at the end of the day, like, they are the sport coach, like, they do know the sport. And so I think it's really just kind of like taking a step back, especially like for me in this position, like I'm coming in year one and I'm like, okay, like how can I best serve the athletes and the coaches is like I need to like hear them out, hear what they want, take that and be like, okay, how can I adapt what they're saying and what they're wanting to things that I know that could work, and try to just kind of like sprinkle things in rather than immediately like I want to change this. I want to do this. So I guess the way that like I plan and have gone about it is to just taking a step back of like I'm not the big dog. Like at the end of the day, like I'm working for the coach. So if we can be on the same page and collaborate, like and help the athletes, we both win. So I would say that's a big thing of like just like humility and like if I think I know better, like it doesn't really matter because if we're not on the same page, things aren't going to get done how they're supposed to. So that's kind of how I plan to address situations. And obviously, like once you get closer with a coach, they and coach is and athletes, like it's like buy-in. Like if they start to trust you, you have a relationship, you have more buy-in, you have a longer leash, and they'll hear you out and like trust what you're doing more. So it just takes time in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to you for being able to be humble and sit back and kind of say that you don't know everything. I mean, obviously listen to your coach and also be able to bounce ideas off each other and listen to hear what they're saying to be able to work together to make sure that everything is going well. Because at the end of the day, it's about the athlete, right? Because it's the athlete first at all times. Now, you're working with a lot of young athletes, right? So a lot of ones that are coming in from the high school level and maybe don't have experience of being in the weight room or being on the field or any performance training that they've had before. What would be like one big piece of advice that you would give to any of the youth athletes out there to do before they get to college? Like what would be something that you would highly recommend them to invest into for themselves?
I guess I would say, I think in high schools, like strength and conditioning or sports performance, like that's becoming more of a thing that like they do have coaches for that, which is great. But I think that athletes who don't have that need to start looking into like resistance training and like finding a coach, finding a private training area. I know like certain places can be more expensive, but just like finding someone who knows what they're doing to either talk to them about like the training that they can do or finding, somewhere to like pay for sessions. I think that's huge. And just like, yeah, I mean, obviously, like doing your sport, like if we're talking about like from a conditioning standpoint, like I wouldn't worry too much before coming in. Honestly, like do what you can do what you're able to do. And then like when you come in, hopefully like we'll whip you into shape wherever you're at. So,
Pretty sure you guys will. As I can remember back at being in college days, wasn't that fun to going into school
no.
conditioning times, right?
'Cause you have no idea what to expect, like, you've never done it, and you're like, "I don't know where I'm at, I don't know what I'm supposed to do," like, it's terrifying, but, like, you get the hang of it and you're fine, so.
Right, right. How do you measure success as a coach though? More than wins, PRs, scholarships, like what is like Coach Erica's definition of success?
I feel like for me, there's gonna be 2 ways to go about it. The first one just in terms of, like, performance, like, we'll do some, like, standardized testing, like, okay, like, looking at their jump numbers, maybe looking at, like, an iso thigh pull, like, if we're talking about metrics and, like, KPIs, like, looking at those trends, if they're trending up, like, that's a win, for the majority. I would also say just, like, in the weight room or in, like, drills that we're doing, like, if the athletes are moving better. I think that's a big thing of, like, I'm especially early on, like, not as concerned with, like, how much weight they can move, but it's like, can you move well? Can you move safely? So I think kind of seeing, like, my athletes progress through that would be, like, a huge win for me that, like, if they can go from their body weight squat, if it's horrible, like, to, like, actually, like, loading them on a front squat and it looks good. Like, that's a win. I would also say in terms of just, like, resilience, obviously, you cannot prevent injury, but I think if that can, like, occur less, especially if it's, like, a non-contact injury, I think that's something, to, like, strive for. There's other factors that go into it, but that is, like, a piece that I would want. And then honestly, like, the last thing is just, like, my relationships with them. If I go from beginning of the semester to the end or first year to second year to the whole time I'm somewhere, like I want to look back at like my relationships with the athletes. Was I able to make a positive impact on them? Was I able to like help them learn that they can like push themselves, learn to like take care of their bodies when they are done playing, and just like things like that. Like I think those things can go a lot further than, some athletes who only play the 4 years and then they're done. So
In the grand scheme of things, in all of this, we look at the big picture. We look 10 years down the road. Where is Coach Erica at? Where does she want to go in this sports performance, strength conditioning field? Where does she want to be?
that is a great question. I feel like I've gotten asked that like 10 times and my answer is probably different every time.
I love it. It should change every time.
Yeah, it does. But I would say if I were to answer now, like I love the sport of volleyball. That's the sport I played my whole life. And so ideally, like I would love to work with a volleyball team at at a high level, whether it's like power four or like a strong mid major. Like I just want to work with a competitive group of girls. I want to be back in like the sport of volleyball. So I would say that is kind of like my big goal, but obviously like that could change. I could fall in love with a different sport I'm coaching. So that's kind of, variable. I want to eventually be somewhere warm, which I am now. So I would say like that's one too. I don't like the cold. So I got to be somewhere warm. And then honestly, like 10 years down the road, if I'm just able to be somewhere and kind of like, I'll be happy if I'm able to kind of like get like planted there in the community and like actually like just be somewhere where I can make a difference, where I'm able to like use my skills and my assets to the best of their, abilities. So I think that's like a big thing is like I want to be somewhere where I'm valued and I can add value.
So this next one, before we get out of here, this next question comes from one of our former guests. What is a strength conditioning hot take or controversial conversation that you have?
Gosh.
It could be
I
anything.
feel like I'm pretty like open to like hearing all sides. I mean, this isn't a hot take, but I just think like simple is better. Like I feel like what I've seen a lot is like people trying, especially on social media, like people trying
Yeah.
to be so trivial in the things that they're doing. And it's like, you look back however many years ago and like they were doing the same like basic things. And like it's like now it seems like we're just trying to like invent and create new things, which is great. But I think it kind of takes away of like it's not the end all be all. So I would say like just keeping things more simple and not trying to like change things all the time. Like it's not really a hot take, but that's kind of like my view on it is like I think you can get great results from, not squatting, balancing on a Bosu ball or something like that. So
Coach, you sound like you got a lot more wisdom beyond your years. Sound like you've been hanging around some older coaches with
I
that
have,
one, to keep it simple part. But also, before we get out of here, what would be something that you want us to ask our next guest?
I would say like advice for like I'm very I'm very fresh in this field. Like this is literally my first full-time position and I think going into it I'm kind of like it's really helped me to hear from people who've been in my position and have been through this like transition phase. So I would say like with the next coach just be like how did you handle that like first year? Your first year like in that full-time position, what were things that you like struggled with? How did you handle like almost the not imposter syndrome, but like kind of like you supposed to be here doing this? I think that like insight can help a lot of other younger coaches to just like not feel like we're like going crazy or that we're like not where we're supposed to be. That was kind of a like long answer, but
That's a great answer, because I can tell you that a lot of coaches that I've asked about the imposter syndrome, whether they're new in the game, they're in the middle of the game, or they're later on in the game, it never ends. That's just the one thing that I've gotten from them all, is that if you don't have the imposter syndrome, then are you fully doing it correctly too? Right? Like, are you doing something that's, in a position that puts you in a position to question, like, hey, was that the correct thing to be done? So I think there's never a point that you ever get out of imposter syndrome. And this is coming from a 33-year-old retired athlete too, that is just now kind of also in your same position, getting started in this coaching field. I'm feeling the imposter syndrome, from years of being confident athlete, to now being on the other side of things. But I can tell you that you're in a great position, right? You're doing everything you can do to put yourself forward. And I know you're doing a lot of research, and I've been watching what you've been doing. So coach, I want to say, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. And I want to also say thank you for your time today, and thank you for being here.
of course, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And we're out.